If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your blood.
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
The blackness. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. The blackness. Keep on. Never say die. Keep on. The blackness. Never say die. Never say die. Keep on. Never say die. Blackness. Never say die.
In the midst of sorrow, you can see up and looking down. A brighter day tomorrow will bring.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent in sunny LA. It's really a beautiful day. I'm looking here out the window. It is a beautiful, 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 almost fall day here. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Make sure to follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and there I am. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you're going to get that push notification and you ain't going to miss an episode. And we're going to be right there with you wherever it is that you go. Now, for those of you that were listening in our last hour, you heard me share questions that need answers related to LAPD's decision to cancel the protection for former Vice President Kamala Harris. A lot of questions that need answers. And look, here on A More Perfect Union, we seek first to understand. And so there's an open invitation to the chief of police over at LAPD, to the LA Police Protective League, right? There's an open invitation for them to come on the show and explain to we the people that decision, because it felt motivated by politics. Felt like it was motivated by something nasty. And we want to give folks an opportunity to clear that up if that's not the case. I'm also wondering, how does the mayor tell you to do something and you say, nah, we ain't doing it? Where do they do that? And why? You treat this mayor a little bit different than other mayors? Questions that need answers. And we got time. We're going to stay on this. And so I hope somebody there gets back to us in short order. Now, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, USA Today is reporting on interview that a lot of folks are still talking about. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett did an interview with Nora O'Donnell over at CBS. The Supreme Court Justice has written a book entitled Listening to the Law. It comes out tomorrow. And in the book, she wears her former law professor hat to try and make the workings of the judicial system understandable to readers who don't necessarily have a law degree. How about those who have some empathy, those who have some compassion, those who have respect for due process? those who have respect for the rule of law. I felt a little insulted by the premise of the book, given the times that we're living in. And so, look, I encourage you to listen to the interview yourself. You can go on YouTube and listen to Norah O'Donnell's interview with Justice Amy Coney Barrett. At times, I found myself furrowing my eyebrows. I'm like, what is she talking about? It felt, you ever feel like somebody's twisting themselves up like a pretzel to make something sound reasonable that is not reasonable? That was my read. I am not a lawyer. I didn't study constitutional law. Is it possible that some of what she said was maybe just not my swim lane, above my head? It's possible. I don't think that's likely, but it's possible. Moving along, Paramount, guess what they did? They named an ombudsman for CBS News from a former conservative think tank. That's right. Paramount Studios has named Kenneth R. Weinstein, former head of a conservative-leaning Washington think tank, to be the ombudsman for CBS News, fulfilling a condition of winning the Trump administration's approval for an $8 billion merger. The company announced today that complaints from consumers, employees, and others about CBS News stories will go to Weinstein, who will help determine if remedial action is necessary. Weinstein, who served as president and chief executive of the Hudson Institute, will report to Jeff Shell, who is the president of Paramount under the new owner, CEO David Ellison. Weinstein will address complaints about news coverage in consultation with Shell, CBS president and CEO George Cheeks, the CBS News executive editor Tom Sabrowski. It's worth noting that Paramount buyer Skydance Media, they agreed to appoint this ombudsman in order to get regulatory clearance for its acquisition of the media company. The FCC said that Skydance agreed to commit to, quotes, viewpoint diversity, non-discrimination, and enhanced localism in its news coverage when the agency announced its approval of the deal. Translation: don't fall out of favor with conservatives. Make sure that the conservative viewpoint is front and center. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I don't like when people do it to me. That's what this is about. CBS News. Like, for those of us that study journalism, we look back at giants in the industry like Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather. CBS News has now cashed a check that their may not be equipped to cash. Now, as long as they maintain their integrity. There's some good people that work at CBS, don't get me wrong. Norah O'Donnell being one of those people. But this deal is funky. All right. Moving along in other news, speaking of the rapidly changing media ecosystem, NBC News is reporting that Lachlan Murdoch cements control of Fox and Wall Street Journal media empire in his new family deal. The Murdoch family reached a deal that will see Rupert Murdoch's politically conservative son, Lachlan Murdoch, cement control of the family media empire. That includes Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. The deal ends a battle over who will control one of the highest profile global media groups. The family will create a separate trust for Rupert's children, James Murdoch, Elizabeth Murdoch, and Prudence McLeod, who will sell their personal holdings in Fox and News Corp over a period of 6 months. Fox Corp said today that it's reached a mutual resolution on the legal proceedings related to the Murdoch Family Trust, resulting in the termination of all litigation. The media ecosystem is changing. And that's why it's so important that you all tap in here and that we do our best to make sure that we're providing you with news and information you can trust, expert analysis from leaders on the front line, and conversations with people who are shaping the culture. That's our commitment to you, because let's not kid ourselves. You can't get all that through a lens that is unapologetically Black, unapologetically progressive. You can't get that everywhere. And so that's our commitment to you. When we come forward, we're switching gears. I'm delighted to share my conversation with you with the director of the new series, Mussolini, Son of the Century. It comes out later this week. What a day to have this conversation about fascism, its dangers. What a day to do a look back and a look forward. More when we come forward on A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
We have no
All right, you ready?
interest as we enter the
Recording.
perfect union.
All right. Be humbled to be in conversation with director Joe Wright. He's an English filmmaker, a film director, and you might have heard of some of his films before: Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, even the Peter Pan origin story of Pan. But his latest film is like no other film he's directed before. It's a historical drama television series called Mussolini, Son of the Century. It is an 8-part series that premieres this week and will run through October 22nd, 2025. And we have so much to talk about. Well, welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
The series is stirring. There are a number of folks, critics, who said that this is the most ambitious and delirious thing that you have ever done. Did it feel that way?
Yeah, it did actually. It really did. I mean, the even just the taking on of 8 hours, I can, when I'm doing a 2-hour movie, I can kind of get 2 hours in my head and it feels manageable. But 8 hours is, I guess it meant that I had to improvise a little bit more, that I had to kind of dig deep in terms of my creativity and find ways of conveying the story that were kind of fresh and exciting to me.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of conveying the story in ways that are fresh and exciting, I mean, as I watched the series, which was packed with a lot of nuggets, the first question that came to mind for me is, how did you wrap your arms around such a polarizing historic figure like Mussolini?
Well, I guess, I see every project as an opportunity to educate myself. And I think as a teenager, I'd kind of go around calling the police fascists or Margaret Thatcher a fascist, and but we kind of trivialized that word. And since 2016 and the reemergence of far-right populism and the word fascism, it felt incumbent upon me to try and understand what it really was and what it meant. And that meant looking very closely at the guy who invented, or kind of at least for contemporary life, invented far-right populism, fascism. And trying to kind of understand him as a person, as an individual. In the end, I think that what I came away with was this sense in which fascism, at its core, there is a void. There is actually nothing there. It's anti everything. It's not really for anything. But yeah, it was an opportunity to educate myself
and educate the world. I mean, I think there are a number of folks who will watch this series, particularly here in the United States, where there are parallels. Certainly feels like there are parallels between then and now. Did you have that experience as you were directing the film? Comparisons between then and now?
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, when I started research and my reading, I kind of was highlighting all the parallels, and then they came so thick and fast that actually in the end I kind of stopped trying to highlight them and thought, well, I should just be less didactic and allow the audience to discover and draw those parallels themselves. Obviously, I was made prior to your last elections, but the same thing is happening in many countries around the world, and in particular in Italy. Giorgia Meloni came to power. Her brothers of Italy came to power whilst we were in pre-production, and so the parallels are definitely available in Italy, and even with Brexit, you know, and the kind of ridiculous outcome of that vote, that referendum. It seems like this idea of taking the legitimate concerns of disenfranchised people and exploiting them is something that certainly Mussolini did, and is something that's playing out around the world.
Let's talk a little bit about, you know, Mussolini's origin stories. This is somebody who, you know, came from modest beginnings. If I remember correctly, you know, his father was a craftsman. His mother might have been a school teacher. And his father was a socialist, right? And certainly raised him, exposed him to sort of, you know, socialist views, socialist ideals. You know, at what point in his life did he begin to veer from that? And at what point in his life did he become anti everything?
Well, he was, you know, a staunch socialist and a true believer until the First World War. And the socialists believed that Italy should not join the war, that they would be, you know, involved in fighting their fellow workers from, you know, around the world, the international, and so it was a rich man's war, and they shouldn't get involved. Mussolini, on the other hand, believed strongly in going to war, and was thrown out of the Socialist Party because of those views. So that's when he officially left the Socialist Party. But a lot of his ideas were still kind of fairly sort of socialist in leaning, right up until he was offered money by the industrialists to go and break the strikes of 1920. And at that point, he became more of a reactionary. And you know, I mean, he'd always had a kind of nationalist leaning, but he became more reactionary at that point, and took the money, basically.
Yeah, and we see that, and within the first 2 episodes of the series, we start to see that sharp turn that he has. While I was watching the film, I was thinking back to a course I had as an undergrad in college at the University of Southern California, and it was the theory of the marginal man. And I remember in our world leadership class being exposed to this theory by Robert Ezra Park, it explains the personality and the struggles in an individual who lives between 2 cultures, not fully belonging to either. Were there hints of that with Mussolini? Did he experience a struggle between, you know, the socialist world and the fascist world before he made that break?
I'd like to take that course. That sounds fascinating. There was no fascist world before Mussolini invented it, you know. But I think he was torn between. He always dreamed that the socialists would kind of take him back. Weirdly, he always dreamed that that somehow he would win them over, and that they would love him again. I mean, I think a lot of what inspired him was a kind of resentment towards the socialists for having thrown him out, a desire for revenge, and yet at the same time a desire for acceptance by them as well. And maybe that's kind of emblematic of an acceptance from his father that he was desiring. I don't know, but I think I think he was torn between the loyalty to the working classes and a desire to walk amongst the upper classes, to be accepted by high society, to be accepted also as an intellectual. He was desperately wanting to be accepted as an intellectual, as a great thinker, which he wasn't really. I mean, he was extremely smart, but he wasn't really an intellectual.
I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy about the film, and it's a lot of film, it's an 8-hour series, and you will be releasing, I think, a couple episodes this week and then an hour every week after that. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so during the first episode, there are a number of instances where the character that plays Mussolini does this sort of direct to camera, you know, sort of commentary, sort of breaks the fourth wall and sort of brings the audience in a little bit closer. And there is a scene in the first episode where he says history is made with outcast. He says, inflame the anger, arm them with bombs and guns. He goes on to say, and if necessary, ballot pencils. Talk to us about that particular scene, which, you know, it haunts me. After watching it, you know, and especially, you know, covering political news in the United States day after day after day, that really just jumped off the screen to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's, you know, the parallels don't really need me to highlight them. That's, you know, that's a direct quote from Mussolini, and speaks to what I mentioned earlier, this idea of taking the legitimate concerns of a disenfranchised people and exploiting them. You know, the idea of people were scared at the time. You know, people had lost sight of what they had thought of as being the natural order. You know, after the First World War, everything was thrown into chaos, and they no longer felt they had solid ground to stand on. The world was, you know, had just seen the first mechanized war. Everything was being mechanized. And so he came along and gave, you know, simple answers to very difficult questions to which, frankly, there are no simple answers. But he gave these simple answers, and people followed. And the relationship that people had with violence in those days was quite different, I think. And so the idea of arming them with bombs and guns carried a different kind of weight, if you like. Life was a lot cheaper then. At the beginning, the fascists actually didn't believe in elections. They weren't a kind of political party as such. They were a revolutionary force. And it was all about revolution. That was the idea, to create a revolution. You know, they'd seen the success of the communist revolution in Russia, and they thought they'd have something similar themselves. And then at a certain point, he betrayed that ideal and realized that elections were the way for him to gain power. I mean, he was, you know, he would do anything it took to gain power. There's another line where he says, you know, I betray everyone, even myself. And that's very true. There is actually no belief system that he's adhering to at the center of it. It's whatever will get him what he wants, where he wants to go.
And that is
Thought-provoking.
another frame by which, folks may compare and contrast that moment in history.
And change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Florida's plan to drop some school vaccine mandates is delayed 90 days and would only affect hepatitis B, chickenpox, Hib influenza, and pneumococcal diseases.
This is an issue very clearly of parents' rights.
Black Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo admitted he announced the plan without data analysis. Other required vaccines like measles and polio remain in place, though lawmakers could expand the proposal. The Tony Award-winning Broadway show Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club will end early on September 21st after star Billy Porter has been diagnosed with sepsis. He's expected to make a full recovery. And thousands marched in Washington, D.C. over the weekend to protest the federal law enforcement surge. Organized by the ACLU, the rally went from Malcolm X Park to Freedom Plaza with calls to end National Guard presence in the city. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Terrible drive in the Sepulveda Pass, 405 southbound, coming up between Skirball and Getty Center. It's only the carpooling open there due to this earlier crash and ongoing investigation. Huge delays from the 101 surrounding surface streets and canyon roads, an absolute mess as well. Let's also head out to the drive in Tustin. A wreck on the 55 northbound before the 5. It's off to the shoulder now. Great news, but traffic is a mess leaving the 405 freeway. Diamond Bar, a crash, 57 northbound before Pathfinder. Off to the shoulder. You're on the brakes from Diamond Bar Boulevard.
Ignite your afternoons at Waba Grill's $5 happy hour with our 5-piece pork veggie dumplings and a value-sized premium one beverage drink, like our tangy passion fruit lemonade. Enjoy $5 happy hour weekdays after 3 p.m. Only at Waba Grill.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NFL will close the first week of the regular season with a diversity milestone that should go in the NFL record books. 16 of the 32 NFL teams had a black quarterback in their starting lineup. That's the highest number of black quarterbacks starting a season, number 1 on the depth chart. One of those 16 is former USC quarterback Caleb Williams. You will see Williams leading the Chicago Bears against Minnesota in tonight's Monday Night Football game. The other 15, Spencer Rattler of New Orleans, Kyler Murray of Arizona, Dak Prescott of Dallas, Lamar Jackson of Baltimore, Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City, Jalen Hurts of Philadelphia, Geno Smith of the Las Vegas Raiders, Russell Wilson of the New York Giants, Justin Fields of the New York Jets, Michael Penix of Atlanta, Jordan Love of Green Bay, rookie Cam Ward of Tennessee, and Bryce Young of Carolina. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Asthma Peak Week is almost here, September 14th through 20th, and it's one of the most dangerous times of the year for asthma flare-ups. Did you know that Black Americans are about 5 times more likely than white Americans to end up in the emergency room due to asthma? This is an important reminder to be informed, prepared, and proactive. If you or someone you care for has asthma, now's the time to get ready. Make sure medications are filled and not expired. Review your asthma action plan with your doctor or care team. This is also the time to talk with your doctor about your triggers, monitor your symptoms closely, and double-check inhaler technique to ensure you are using all prescribed medications correctly. Caregivers, make sure your child's school or daycare has their rescue medications and know what to do in an emergency. Stay aware, have a plan, and spread the word because your health matters. For more active asthma care tips, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca. Thinking about going electric? Now is the perfect time. Electric vehicles cost less to run, don't need gas, and need fewer repairs than gas-powered cars. You can also save with federal and state tax credits, and in some areas, qualify for rebates on home charging stations. To learn more, visit www.breathesocal.org. That's www.breathesocal.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
And that is, another frame by which, folks may compare and contrast that moment in history with this moment in history, having no belief system. You talked about the revolutionary force, him being, supportive of a proponent of the revolutionary force rather than a political party until he saw, wait a minute, by leaning in to the legitimacy of political parties, that can help me to get power, right? And he held on to that power for decades, and would not let go. Let's talk a little bit about
he used democracy to destroy democracy. Again, that's something else he talks about in the show, and Mussolini talked about, was this idea that he says democracy is a beautiful creature. It allows you to even use it to destroy it. And I think that's, that's certainly something we should all listen to very, very carefully.
Blink very fast if you don't feel safe. The people who are streaming this, you can see I'm blinking very fast. Let's talk about just sort of the conditions that allowed Mussolini to rise to power. There was a king at the time that was aware of his taste for power and tried to keep him from becoming a martyr. That's certainly what we discover by the time we get to episode 2. But yet and still, after he is executed, right? I'm not saying anything that is not in the history books. Do you think that Mussolini, as a historical figure, ever achieved that martyrdom?
I don't know about martyrdom, but what I found extraordinary being in Italy making this show, and I was there for like 2 years making the show, is that the amount of people I met and talked to who still venerated Mussolini. It's interesting. Italy never had a kind of national reckoning of their fascist past. There were no Nuremberg trials. There was no Truth and Reconciliation. It was just kind of swept under the carpet, and they got on with life. And they had a lot of problems after the Second World War. There were kind of isolated incidents of personal retribution, and many of those, but not on a national level. And so this kind of idea that Mussolini was actually the hero who got the trains running on time, who created order, and that if truth were possibly the sacrificial lamb for the sake of order, then that was okay because life was, and so a lot of people I spoke to thought of Mussolini as having been maligned, really, that he fell in with the bad apple, that Hitler was the problem, and that he should never have got involved with Hitler. Hitler was a bad apple, and he ended up being led astray, almost like this special son. And I found that really, really shocking. I mean, the interesting thing about Italy to me is it's still, and this is a sweeping generalization, but it still feels very much, the left and the right in a way that doesn't exist so much in Britain anymore, certainly. And I'm not sure about America, but that, that it's still very much, there's the socialists or the left leaning and the right leaning, and they are always fighting. It's kind of, which is fascinating to me,
Yeah. One other thing that was fascinating to me about Mussolini, a lot of people don't know he was a journalist.
Yeah.
He was a journalist. I mean, and when I learned that little bit, it only added insult to injury,
It makes complete sense, though. I mean, he was a very, very good journalist, and he understood the simple headline, the hard-hitting, this is the slogan, this is the headline, and people can hold on to that. Don't bother them with details. Just give them a kind of, and so he was one of the first to really understand how to manipulate the media in a way that other politicians at the time simply had no clue. It was all modern, and this was, something again, more parallels. But this, I mean, without Mussolini, there's certainly, I think things might look quite different.
Let's talk about masculinity, because the way that people talk about toxic masculinity, there were certainly evidence of that in this film. Lots of very violent behaviors, very sort of like rough sex scenes, for example. We saw direct references to the manhood of particular leaders at the time. Talk to us about what Mussolini can teach us about a masculinity that makes way for the kind of fascism that we saw take hold of Italy, take hold of the world, that part of the world.
I kind of came, as I sort of looked at what fascism was, I came to believe, and especially in relation to Mussolini, I came to believe that fascism is the politicization of toxic masculinity, and that type of masculinity can exert itself personally, in relation to the self, can exerts itself domestically, and then going out from that kind of socially, and then finally nationally, and it's all the same thing. It's all the same root. I think it probably comes from a place of fear and insecurity, but that kind of was interesting to me because it stopped. There's a tendency to demonize these characters as well. To somehow, by demonizing them, we absolve ourselves of responsibility. Well, they're other. That's not us. They're evil. They're other. I remember when Bush was talking about the atrocities at Abu Ghraib, And I remember distinctly him saying on the news, they have sickness in their souls, they're evil, the people who perpetrate. And therefore, it's nothing to do with me. I absolve myself of responsibility, and I absolve you, the public, of a responsibility as well. And it seems to me that that's very, very dangerous. So I think by understanding the kind of personal psychic impulse, where this comes from, this shadow, that the kind of shadow side of masculinity, I think is important, because then we can stop it, you know. And in a way, it's not, you know, it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the victims, should we say, or the society. But nor is it good for the perpetrator, right? And so I think we can, you know, we can try and combat it by looking at the individual, and the individual's relationship to their own masculinity. I mean, I think making the show certainly showed me personally more clearly than ever what kind of man I wanted to be and what kind of man I did not want to be, and why, you know.
Wow. Yeah. There's an opportunity every day for us all to be, you know, better men, better women, better people. Yeah. In our remaining minutes, clearly this historical drama series, Mussolini, Son of the Century, based on the best-selling novel by Antonio Scarlatti. You know, I think it's going to turn a lot of heads. And, you know, I want to give you an opportunity, you know, to talk a little bit about how this film is, you know, a commentary, a social commentary, a political commentary at a time where we're seeing a rise in authoritarianism, not just here in the United States, but we're seeing it around the world. And for folks who may be a little fuzzy on the history of Mussolini, the relationship between Mussolini and Hitler, understanding what fascism is and how it works, you know, how is this film, you know, a lesson available for all to learn at a time where it feels like we're on the precipice of a return to a darker time in history?
I think that what making the show taught me was just the etymology of the word, just where it came from, how it works, and the machinations of the tactics used to propel this kind of system to power. And I think that by looking at our past, our collective past, we can understand where we are and potentially where we're going.
Well, from your mouth to our ears, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to encourage everybody to log on to, is it Amazon Prime? Is that where folks can watch it in the United States?
It'll be on Mubi, M-U-B-I, Mubi streaming service, and it'll be on from September 10th.
Okay, so we're all going to tune into Mubi, M-U-B-I, Mubi, to check out Mussolini, Son of the Century. Our thanks to Joe Wright for another searing piece of work that meets the moment. Please, please, please come back again soon.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Nice to meet you. I like your work, by the way. I like your work very much.
I appreciate that. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA.
Striving to make America a nation as
Thank you,
good
Joe. Thank you for those.
More
We are
perfect
done.
union
I
on
appreciate
KBLA
it.
Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
You have cancer. The three words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for Black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words, "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer.
So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you, your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at choosechangeca.org. Recover you.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent. And the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to streaming a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud. Just a shout out to Ayo Edebiri. She's speaking up after an interviewer says that Me Too and BLM movements are done. I don't know if you saw the video. There's a viral video of this exchange on social media where Ayo, she's the GOAT. She's clear the GOAT on the panel. She's getting a lot of praise, and rightfully so, for her response to an uninformed interviewer asking about her latest project, a film that takes on sexual assault. And during the promotion of the film, After the Hunt at the Venice Film Festival, an Arts Life TV interviewer asked her co-stars, Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield, about, quote, what we lost in the politically correct era and what we have to expect in Hollywood after the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter are done. The framing of the question immediately caused confusion and surprise, as reported by USA Today. Garfield turned to Roberts and Edebiri, and then Roberts asked the Italian interviewer to repeat the question and added, with your sunglasses on, I can't tell which of us you're talking to. The interviewer then said the question was for Roberts and Garfield, the two white folks on the panel. You asked some question about Black Lives Matter and Me Too. There's a black woman that's sitting right there, and you don't want her to answer the question? Okay. Roberts said it's not done before a stunned Ayo interjected, and she said, quotes, I know that it's not for me, and I don't know if it's purposeful that it's not for me, but I just am curious. I don't think it's done. Hashtags might not be used as much, but I do think that there's work being done by activists, by people every day. That's beautiful, important work. That's really active for a reason, because this world's really charged, and that work isn't finished at all. Maybe there's not mainstream coverage in the way that there might have been, daily headlines in the way that it might have been 8 or so years ago, but I think it means that I don't think it means that the work is done. That's what I would say. And I would agree. And I have a feeling a lot of our leaders, learners, and listeners would also agree with that. And so let's just say, round of applause. Round of applause. We love it. We love it. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us produce a more perfect union. Our executive producer, Tabitha Smiley, our sound engineer, Brother Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art and Journey, and to each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners, we thank you. We curate the show each and every day with you in mind. And remember, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.